Polish General Józef Haller von Hallenburg. Haller was born the 13th of August 1873 in a small village called Church near Krakow. Józef was the third child of a Polish landed gentry Henryk Haller von Hallenburg and Olga Dreta. An ancestor, Jan Haller, who was a bookseller and the owner of the first printing house in Poland in the 16th century, was one of his ancestors. Józef Haller's father took part in the failed January uprising against the partitioning powers, and his maternal grandfather was a captain in the Polish army during the November uprising. Strong patriotism and religiousness were deeply rooted in Haller's family life and strongly influenced young Józef. He studied at the Faculty of Artillery at the Vienna's Theresian Military Academy. When Józef Haller graduated from the university, he was designated the rank of second lieutenant and then started his 15-year-long service with the Austro-Hungarian army. He served with the 11th Artillery Regiment in Lvov. In 1910, Józef resigned from the Austro-Hungarian army, stating that since he had reached the rank of captain and he is not able to learn anything new in the Austrian artillery, he leaves the army in order to serve the country in some other way until his homeland needs him. After dropping out of the army, Haller dedicated himself to social work. He was an active member of a farmers' cooperative movement. He took up a post as the inspector in Farmers' Association. His duties included organizing agricultural, farm and dairy courses. He was also a member of the Scouting movement and Polish Gymnastics Society Falcon, which was founded in 1911. Some of his priorities were to militarize Falcon and Polonize the Scouting movement and then transform it into Harcestwo, which is a Polish equivalent of Scouting. Haller had worked as a military trainer. He set up Falcon teams, organized secret soldier, non-commissioned officer and officer courses for the Polish youth. In 1913, along with other colleagues, he worked out model badges and terminology for Harcestwo, many of which are still used today. He made a major contribution to creating the Scouts Cross, where he suggested combining some elements of the Maltese Cross and the Polish Virtuti Militari Order. When the Great War broke out, it was assigned to mobilize Polish patriotic paramilitary organizations. In Lvov was formed the Eastern Legion. Haller was one of the founders of this formation, which is a combination of Falcon's Fields Brigades, Bartus's Brigades and the Polish Rifle Squads. At that time, Austrian failures in Galicia led to occupation of Lvov and the whole territory of the Eastern Galicia by the Russian army. The Legion had to withdraw into the surroundings of Mszana Dolna. Although the unit had been completely formed, it did not participate in the battle. Due to a collapse of morale among soldiers and resistance against swearing loyalty to the Austrian Emperor, the Legion was disbanded. Soldiers, who were in favor for continuing the war against the Russian Empire, were subjected to Józef Haller's directions. He became the commander of the 3rd Legion's infantry regiment after its former reorganization. The military unit set off to the front line in Eastern Carpathians. Despite bad climatic and topographic conditions, the brigade supported the defense of the Carpathians and hindered Russian access to Hungary. The 3rd Legion's infantry regiment troops under the command of Haller surmounted the Rafajla village in Galicia. Haller's brigade remained in Rafajla, whereas the others continued the battle in Hukulszczyzna and Bukowina. On a temporary permit in Stuka, in May 1915, Haller was injured in a car accident. He spent 10 months recovering in a hospital. In July 1918, Haller was given an assignment to command the 2nd Legion's Infantry Brigade, which he accepted. On the 15th of February 1918, Haller questioned the agreements of the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, which reduced the chances for the creation of an independent Poland. Together with the 2nd Brigade of the Polish legions and the rest of Polish soldiers, Haller broke through the front line and joined the Polish troops in Russia. He took charge of the military units of the Polish Second Corps in Ukraine and was appointed general. The legions under Haller's command were inspired by the national democracy movement. Germany considered the presence of Polish military units in Ukraine an infringement of the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. At midnight on the 10th and 11th of May 1918, German troops assaulted Polish units near Kaniv. There were no warnings preceding the attack. The battle continued for one day. After the ammunition storage expired, the Polish Second Corps surrendered. Many people were seriously injured. The Polish army lost less than 1,000, the Germans close to 1,500. Haller avoided imprisonment by faking his own death and fled to Moscow. After a long journey through Murmansk, General Haller arrived in France. He was designated to be in charge of the forming Polish army. They consisted of Polish men who firstly served in the French army, former POWs and Polish emigrants from the United States and Canada. Political surveillance over the army was initially a domain of Polish National Committee. The Blue Army was recognized by the Triple Entente member countries and the independent Polish Army. In 1918, Polish troops commanded by Józef Haller struggled with German soldiers on the Western Front line in the Vosges mountain region in Champagne. The end of war did not interrupt the enlargement of the Polish army in France, also known as the Blue Army due to their uniforms. The number of soldiers was eventually over 100,000. Due to weapons supplied from France, the Polish army finally became a significant military force. Beginning in April 1919, men and equipment were conveyed to Poland. Modern arms of the Blue Army, especially airplanes and Renault FT tanks, enhanced the Polish armed forces yet to be founded. General Haller arrived in Warsaw, where he was welcomed as a national hero. The Blue Army was deployed at the Polish-Ukrainian front line. In the course of victorious battles against the Ukrainian army, Haller's forces reached the Sprach River. In June, the general himself was dispatched to the Polish-German borderline in order to take command of the army on the southwestern front. In October 1919, Haller was entrusted with the command of the Pomeranian front, created in order to claim the territory of Pomerania, in peaceful and planned way, as the territory was granted to Poland according to the Treaty of Versailles. Despite a few incidents, including armed resistance and sabotage, the Pomeranian takeover proceeded rather easily. On the 10th of February 1920, General Haller came to Puck, where he performed a symbolic wedding ceremony of Poland and the Baltic Sea. Russia sought to cross Poland in order to stimulate a Europe-wide communist revolution. The Soviet operation pushed the Polish forces westward all the way to the Polish capital, Warsaw. In 1920, Haller was appointed Inspector General of the Volunteer Army, the formation to which he made a great contribution. During the Battle of Warsaw, he led the forces defending the capital's foregrounds. He was also a member of the Council for Defense of the Nation, July to August 1920, and later led the Northeastern Front. At this stage of his career, he saw the end of the war. After the war, Józef Haller had inter alia function of the Inspector General of Artillery. He was president of the Polish Scouting and Guiding Association. During the years 1922–27 he was a member of the Sejm, of the Christian Union of National Unity Party. Because of his nationalist views, he was also said to be responsible for inspiring an atmosphere of hostility towards President Gabriel Narutowicz, claiming that he had been elected with non-Polish votes. Narutowicz would be assassinated days after his election. In 1923 and again in 1933, the general traveled to the United States with a mission of support for veterans and disabled members of the Blue Army. General Haller condemned Pilsudski's make-up d'état, which resulted in him being retired. During the years 1936–39, he was one of the organizers and leaders of Front Morges, which was in opposition to the government of the Sanaka regime. On 10 October 1937, on the Labour Party's Constitutional Congress, he was elected the head of the party's principal board. After World War II broke out, Haller managed to make his way through Romania, to France, where he offered himself to serve General Ladisław Sikorski's government, which was about to be formed. He entered the government as a minister without portfolio. At the turn of the years 1939 to 1940, he traveled again to the US, but this time to encourage American Polonia to join the Polish army, which was being formed in France. After the fall of the government in France, Haller reached Great Britain, where was a Minister of Education in the Polish government-in-exile. After the war, Józef Haller decided to remain abroad and settled in London for good, where, steeped in the legend of the Blue General, he died on 4 June 1960 at the age of 86. Thanks to the initiative of the Polish Scouts from White's team, his ashes were returned to Poland and are now kept in a crypt in St. Agnes's Garrison Church in Krakow. We invite you to subscribe to our historic channel. Click on the black Pro Patria Poland team icon and subscribe. Thank you and see you soon.